Hello, I'm Corey Rafe-Stenger for the Guardian Life Insurance Company of America. In my 14 years in the business, I never heard it quite so clearly that buying term and investing the difference isn't the best deal over the long haul. No doubt you're asking, why is that? Isn't that what common knowledge tells us? It's one of those myths like George Washington and the cherry trees. Only this fallacy can have a negative impact on your financial well-being. There are three things that we have to get about that. First, needing insurance just till the kids grow up. People could end up regretting the fact that their insurance runs out while they're so young. Second, today's Americans don't really invest the difference, they spend it. And third, even if they did invest it, they would have to earn almost 11% before taxes over their lifetime to match the impact of permanent life insurance. Important stuff, right? And well worth investing a little less than 20 minutes to discover the truth about your financial opportunities. I'm talking with industry consultant Dick Weber, who after a 42-year career in the life insurance industry, now works on behalf of consumers and their advisors, helping them better understand, purchase, and then manage their life insurance policies effectively. Dick and his business partner, Chris House, have recently written a research paper entitled Life Insurance as an Asset Class, and we've asked Dick to discuss with us some of the highlights from that paper that we felt you would find interesting. Specifically, we'll address the fact that advisors widely promote term life insurance as an inexpensive short-term protection strategy. This approach is promoted to cover either families or businesses for a limited period of time. Families for the premature death of a wage earner, or businesses for the potential financial losses the firm could sustain if a key person whose leadership is critical to the success of the business were to die. So Dick, advisors also agree that when there's a lifetime use for life insurance, term insurance can be a very expensive way to have coverage over a long period of time. Yet there's also a persistent cliche about buying term and investing the difference. Does that make any sense for the life insurance buyer?
Corey, I think we should first clarify what term insurance really is. It's life insurance designed as temporary coverage for a fixed period of time. The price an individual pays is based on his or her current age and health. And the price, whether it goes up annually or is leveled out for a set period of time, measures the increasing probability as we get older that death could occur during the coming year. Our studies show that term is very economical if there's a set period of time, less than 30 years for a 35-year-old, and very expensive if the need or use is essentially for a normal lifetime. The graphs I'd like to show you pretty much tell the story. This graph is a statistical representation of a group of 1 million healthy 33-year-old males. As you can see, the anticipated total number of deaths that occur each year from, in this case, age 33 through the last death at age 114. The point at the top is where half of the group have died and half are still alive. That's what we mean when we talk about average life expectancy for a given age group. For this group, it's age 81. And if you only wanted financial protection against premature death for 20 years, the total cost for $1 million of coverage could be as little as $11,800. You get a sense of the increasing cost of term life insurance as you get older when we look at the $28,170 total cost of this life insurance coverage for a 30-year policy. We see that the last 10 years costs another $17,000, which is close to double the cost for the first 20 years. And while the cost for the entire time was less than an average of $1,000 a year, the graph gives you a visual sense of statistically how few deaths occur in the first 30 years of this lifespan graph. In this example, more than 900,000 of the original group are still alive. So now, if you reached age 62 and you discovered you really wanted to extend the policy for your entire life, you'd soon learn that the guaranteed premium period has expired and you'll have to pay much higher premiums every year. In this example, from age 33 to age 81, you'd have paid a total of $690,000, or more than $660,000 for the last 18 years of coverage, which of course is when another 40% of the deaths have occurred. Term insurance is appropriately inexpensive in the early years because there's very little chance, statistically speaking, that the insurance company will have to pay a death claim.
It doesn't seem very economical to pay almost $700,000 for $1 million of coverage, and that's only if you die in the first half of your age group.
Yes, and if you live to age 100, which is not unthinkable today. The total cost of your premiums to age 100 is an astonishing 4 times the death benefit itself.
Well, you've helped us recognize that the real cost of term insurance is buried in that last 1/3 or so of an average lifespan, and obviously a longer than average lifespan makes that cost go much higher.
Right.
And this is especially true if you end up wanting insurance longer than you originally thought. But we still need to identify if it's possible to offset those later costs with an appropriate way to invest money now. In other words, back to buy term and invest the difference.
I realize it seems I didn't answer your question, Corey, but I really needed to lay the groundwork for an appropriate answer. Let's start with the premise of buying term insurance for a lifetime and test the wisdom of managing the difference between what a generic dividend-paying whole life policy might cost this 33-year-old against the alternative of buying term over his lifetime and effectively beating the whole life company at its own game. Our observations suggest that there's a set of conditions under which a buy term and invest the difference strategy might make sense for an insurance buyer. Condition 1. If you're age 45 or younger with enough years to aggressively invest the difference before having to invest that same money more conservatively, and you're in an age range for which term insurance is relatively inexpensive. And condition number 2, if you're willing and able to exercise the necessary discipline and expertise both to invest the difference and to manage the money you've invested through the early risk-taking years as well as the later risk-averse years. And condition number 3, if there is in fact an actual difference or extra money available to invest. If you don't have the money to buy lifetime insurance coverage with the appropriate lifetime insurance products such as whole life, offering a level premium throughout your life, then maintaining a suitable level of term insurance would be the appropriate strategy. But in such a case, you'd probably not have a difference to invest. So let's investigate the reality of the numbers. Let's go back to my alter ego, the 33-year-old male seeking to make a smart decision about $1 million of coverage. He meets all the conditions and decides that rather than paying the $11,290 each year for a whole life policy, he will buy term for $939 annually and invest the $10,351 difference. Let's take that difference and make a hypothetical investment in a portfolio with an assumed annual 5.19% net after-tax return. I'll explain in a moment why we chose that.
Okay.
When the guaranteed premium of the 30-year policy expires, that hypothetical investment account should be worth $746,997, and the term policy reverts to its underlying guarantee of annually renewable but increasingly higher term premiums. We'll continue to annually invest the full $11,290 and start drawing down the investment account to help pay for the escalating term costs. At that 5.19% annual return, both the investment fund and the life insurance will be gone at life expectancy. You may recall that was age 81 for the 33-year-old. Even if he lives just a few months past that 50-50 life expectancy point, both the fund and the life insurance will be gone. On the other hand, using the current dividend scale of the typical mutual life insurer, if you had invested the $11,290 into a whole life policy each year from the very start, you would have had the original guaranteed $1 million death benefit plus an additional dividend account that could increase the death benefit to as much as $3.2 million by life expectancy. Now, of course, please be aware that dividends are not guaranteed and that the growth that I've talked about above the $1 million isn't guaranteed until the dividend is declared and paid. Of course, constant before-tax investment returns aren't guaranteed either. By the 22nd year of this comparison and the use of the current dividend scale, the whole life cash value, including the cash value of that dividend account, exceeds the value of the buy term and invest the difference investment account. You would have to achieve a constant after-tax return of 5.99% to achieve at age 65 an investment account whose value exceeds the cash value of that participating whole life policy. At this higher assumed constant rate of return for buy term and invest the difference, the legacy value at life expectancy would be around $535,000 remaining in the investment account plus the $1 million term policy death benefit. This still adds up to less than half of the legacy value of the participating whole life policy by itself. In fact, if you wanted to have a legacy value equal to the participating whole life death benefit of $3.2 million at life expectancy, you would need to achieve a constant after-tax return of 7.49%. That's 10.7% before tax throughout your lifetime to accumulate $2.2 million in investment account value after paying all term insurance premiums for the $1 million policy.
Well, the first thing that occurs to me is that my expectations have been lowered a lot by the current economic situation. I'm not sure where I would go to get even the 5.19% on a regular basis. Is a life insurance company really able to do any better than that in this economy?
Corey, that's a great question. The insurance companies primarily invest in conservative investment-grade bonds and directly negotiated primary mortgages in order to meet their long-term liabilities. You'll find very little, if any, subprime mortgage holdings of the major mutual life insurance companies. Even common stocks are generally limited to less than 10% of a mutual company's entire portfolio. It's the underlying returns on these investments that make up a substantial portion of the gains of a whole life or a universal life policy, which, while not so long ago were considered conservative, actually look pretty attractive in today's economy. Aside from the technical invest the difference issues, there are some other considerations. For one thing, the 21st century marks a shift in the paradigm of how long we think we'll live. People are not only living beyond life expectancy in ever greater numbers, but they're also working beyond traditional retirement age. We're having children later, experiencing different careers over our working years, and we're much more likely than our parents to start our own businesses. In addition, there are many more second families and dual financial responsibilities far longer in what used to be considered our golden years. Further, our parents are living longer and may eventually be dependent upon us for care and support, giving rise to the baby boomers phenomenon of the sandwich generation, where we may be responsible for providing financial support to dependent children, whether young or adult, and to our aging parents. So in other words, our financial obligations may not only be more wide-ranging and more volatile than in our parents' and grandparents' day, but will probably also last longer. In addition, people are looking for ways to recoup on their recent losses due to the economy. It's increasingly unlikely that a buy term and invest the difference strategy is going to adequately fulfill our dreams.
Looking at this from another perspective, can you give us an example, assuming the resources to pay for it, of how to make a whole life policy a better choice than buy term and invest the difference?
I'm going to try to give you an example of buying whole life and investing the difference. And this example that comes to mind is the scenario of wanting to optimize your retirement income from investment assets and wanting to pass a legacy on to your family. If that seems like a reasonable scenario, let's advance the age of my alter ego to age 45, looking to begin investing in earnest for retirement and wanting to maintain a $500,000 life insurance policy no matter how long he lives. With a budgeted total of $15,000 a year for insurance and additions to an existing retirement-focused portfolio where we're going to start out with $200,000, we'll do an analysis determining whether he's better off with a buy term and invest the difference approach, or if a participating whole life policy would better suit his needs and objectives. In option 1, we'll continue with the buy term and invest the difference concept, paying $865 a year for a 20-year, $500,000 term policy and investing the $14,135 annual difference at an assumed and constant 8% appreciation before taxes. By age 65, the total after-tax value of the investment is $1.26 million, which we'll assume can provide a 5% before-tax, interest-only income of $44,120 a year for life. We assume he lets the life insurance policy lapse after the 20-year premium guarantee expires. Whenever death occurs, the legacy value of this approach is the principal of $1.26 million. Remember, he lived on just the interest in order to preserve that principal. His other option is to direct $9,385 of his $15,000 each year into a participating whole life policy with the balance into his retirement portfolio. At age 65, his cash value, including dividends that are not guaranteed until paid, plus his portfolio growing at 8% a year in appreciation and other earnings, also not guaranteed, is worth $1.2 million, roughly $60,000 less than the investment accumulation assumed in the first example. But now we'll switch the policy's dividend option to pay the annual premium, assuring the legacy, and use the $1.2 million to buy a lifetime annuity estimated to be $61,281 a year for as long as he lives. Not only is the retirement income substantially higher in this example, but the estimated death benefit of the whole life policy is $1.68 million at life expectancy. In all respects, and certainly contrary to the so-called wisdom of buy term and invest the difference, we've enhanced both retirement income and legacy value with the same annual allocation of $15,000. Uses of lifetime life insurance, synergized with portfolio investments, can provide a higher net after-tax retirement income and provide a higher legacy value, while reducing volatility and risk than can be achieved using an investment portfolio by itself. So if you're seeking life insurance for your lifetime, you would need to achieve constant and historically high returns of at least 11% a year over long periods of time in order to produce a more favorable result than the strategy of portfolio plus permanent life insurance.
Thanks, Dick, for sharing your wisdom on this important topic. These are great examples that I think finally dispel the myth of buy term and invest the difference. Of course, each individual has his or her own unique circumstances that should be evaluated against these generalizations. But I can say with confidence that speaking with your guardian representative will help you to devise the best life insurance strategy so that you and your beneficiaries will be appropriately protected both now and in the future. We hope that you will join us in our next segment where we will talk to Dick about the importance of diversification with the modern portfolio theory.